from this much you can see for yourself is a full 1/8 plus 3/16, and the other one is not. We talked about the grain, huh? The grain all goes in this. If you're in a yard, they say, hey, there's more people right-handed than left-handed. But I'm the boss and I'm left-handed, so we're going to do it my way. Usually, you're going to make it so you can plane it. So you say, okay, the planking is there. This plane's this way. This side plane's that way. And now, I'm going to have to rough out. I'm going to have to spile it, which we talked about. Spiling is the pattern. And then it's going to get cut out rough. And then I'm going to run it through the planer. So it's going to go through the planer. And on the planer, on the rough cut piece, I've located each location, and I've said this one has 3/16, and then less, okay. So the person goes through it, plus the 3/16, okay. It's all clean inside already. It's not rough anymore. On the outside, it's 3/16 plus, because we want to come to plane, so it's really going to be an 1/8, huh? So, or more. So that means that if it was 3/4 planking, then I could get away with 1-inch stock. Agreed? I could get away with 1-inch stock to do this. So I'm going to say, okay, they're marked, and as the plank's going through, I'm lowering the planer. See, in this case, lowering the top.
As it goes through.
As it's going through. See? And depending how much is going to go through, I may have to do it twice. Like I may have to do one pass that lowers it, because this is a wimpy planer. But if I'm using that big planer, like when I'm doing Frida, I can take off 3/16, no problem. On a planer. Because it's so powerful, you see. And sharp blades.
So it's going to be.
This is way better. The quality is better, but it's sharp. Now you only do that on the outside, meaning this trend, this amount that's going through, and you only do it on the outside of the plank. Why do you think that is? Because the inside of the plank should be regarded like as a batten. It has to be pristine because it's going to wrap around the frames. So any irregularities as you do this on the outside, you absolutely do not want on the inside. So you follow me? We're putting a taper in the plank that's been cut out. It's curved. It's thicker than we need, but the taper is not perfect, and so that is always on the outside of the boat. When we bend it around the boat, the inside, which is hollowed, agreed? It's hollowed, but despite it being hollowed, its edges are not hollowed. Its edges have to remain.
Bob, do you take it through the thickness planer after you cut the hollows inside, or before?
Already
Sorry.
What happened is you got the plank.
Yes.
You do the spiling. You cut out the curve of the spiling. You then you have 1-inch plank. By the time you cut away, because we say 1 inch, it's rough.
Right.
So you check when you go to the lumber yard. Some of these supposed 1-inch planks are not 1 inch. I'm talking about rough lumber.
Right.
If you go anywhere, it's like less than you thought it was. So you've got to be really careful. And if you order from far away, you got to make sure they understand it. It has to be the amount you think it is.
Correct dimension is 1 inch.
Yeah, we're talking,
Plus.
rough lumber. See, so rough lumber, if it's 1 inch, then it should be 1 inch. Because you're going to lose as much as 1/8 by planing it on both sides to just smooth it out.
So how do you do the inside? So you use the planer for the outside, you're saying? Okay.
Well, the inside doesn't need to be run through the planer.
No.
Because it is, as I said, like a bat. Like it wraps against the frame. So all the tapering.
Oh, it's going to wrap. Okay.
Well, I mean, it's going to be bending around the hull.
Yes.
The plank is going to bend around the hull. Now, yes, it's hollow, so So after you've done the tapering, now you pull out your hollowing plane. That reminds me, Perry, did you make a hollowing plane?
No.
Okay, so that's your first job, because I was asking Lawrence, I said, I think he made one, but you
Yeah.
said to me, no, he didn't, think he made one, huh?
Who I did. I don't know about Perry.
No, I said, I was talking to you about Perry.
Oh, Perry.
No, I did
Yeah,
not.
and I was saying that the first thing that you need, is for because then in Thursday class, if we're doing something, you can come in and you have your own, so you need to have your own tools now. So that's a really fun job. And it'd be a really good way to jump in and do mortise and tenon, you see. Because I'll provide you with, did I not provide you any?
No,
wood?
we talked about it, but that was just before.
Yeah, what we'll
we
do
shut
is, then
down.
but it was on my mind, don't let
Yeah.
me forget, because
Okay.
we can find a piece of wood
All right.
that you can do a test piece, and then after you can do the real one, you
Okay.
see. So, because you absolutely have to have, do you understand what I'm talking about? Have you seen a hollowing plane?
No, I haven't seen that specific
Yeah, so
tool.
you have to make one because you can't buy them.
You can't buy them.
So the why you have to make one, did you try to make one?
No.
No, good, because I'm trying to think who recently tried to make one, and maybe got partway through it or something.
Very
But
fun
basically,
project.
if you're doing.
It's a long project.
Is it?
But it's
It really is.
chisel
So you
it.
have to be
Use
up
the
for
chisel.
that.
Yeah, a
So what
lot.
I'm talking about, now this
And-
is a pepperwood hollowing plane.
Beautiful.
And this one, it will be Ellie again, probably. He always like, no you can't. So I said, I can make a hollowing plane in one day. No you can't. So it's rough, but I did make it in one day, okay? And basically, so it's the same wood as the shear strip over here, or the cabin over here. See, it's beautiful, agree?
Yeah.
And also you have to curve the blade. Now, I didn't do that in one day. What I mean is I did the wood part in one day. That's what I'm talking about. So the blade, you have to use it a lot. So you'll have to figure, how can I hold it? It's very easy to cut off parts of your finger, because they has to be, I'm talking little parts, don't worry. And so because you have to see inside, you have to see, this is not a normal plane, you have to be able to see what it is you're planing, okay? And you don't want a commercial one, because you want one that kind of fits closer to what we do, see? You see, you want one that, where's the other piece I had out here? I brought one out.
A little curve in the bottom, on the underside.
Well, the curve, here's one, see, look. So again, there's times, like on the Frida, I had curves this strong. One reason these planes are so deep is that we alter the curve sometimes. So that's another thing to understand, like they start out thick, and then if we need to, we modify them. But this is the standard curve, perfect curve. And if I were to later put down a piece of wood, you'll see I'll be able to make a shaving that comes out on its own from the plane. Because you have to have both hands to yourself, and therefore the shaving has to be able to come out on its own. So we'll look at that later. Be very careful, this is sharp and it's easy to cut yourself on it, huh? So we have to have one of these, and remember, we already said the outside of the piece is run through the planer. And don't worry, even if it's your first time, you say, oh, look, there's a little step. It doesn't matter as long as you didn't go too far. Because the next thing you're going to do, you're actually then going to hollow it next, because that's your question. So you've got the width, and you're going to hollow it. There's only one thing you're going to do before you hollow it, is you have to know how far to hollow, because it turns out you're going to lose some material. I want you to see why we're losing some material. And the reason we're losing some material is because for this guy, there was a plank above it. This is perfect what I've got right now, because it's just coincidence. This is a little bit thinner, but I want you to notice this has the thing you were asking about earlier, and it has the bevel. Notice I buy the plank, and the bottom is still square to this. See, like how am I going to do this in one day? This plank. I'm gonna only have to deal with one side for this complicated bevel thing. And the bottom is going to be square, see, look, square. And the hollowing is a separate issue, agree? So just understand that the plank is its own shape, its own shape. It's going to wrap around the boat, but where it wraps around the boat, there's different degrees of curvature in the frame depending where we are. And I'm going to get to the bevel thing that you were asking about. This is a key thing.
I have to go, unfortunately, now.
Well, then,
But that's all right. The students will explain it to me when I come back.
Well, the thing is that this is pretty easy, but when we come back, I can show this part. But essentially, it's very simple. I'm taking with this part. I can show you right as you're leaving.
Sure.
So this part here. What I'm doing
Sorry,
is
I'll try to share it. Let's see.
Here, this where I was. I'm over here, and I say, okay. Here's this. I make sure this is not being stopped by anything. See. So then I come over here. I also make sure this is sticking. Notice how sliding bevels can slide sideways a little bit. So you take advantage of that. See, sliding this up. Make sure that this handle, though, is out of the way. See, this guy. So here, I come over here, and now what I do is I find out, look, there's a bolt right there. We'll use this one, okay? Or this one here. There's these bolts that are right there. But basically, we're going to have this angle, okay? And this angle, we measure this angle. We have a bevel board. So we say, here's an angle.
Is that relative to a frame?
Each one is different, see? So like on this guy here, for example.
No, when you measure the angle, what is
the angle is
handle?
The angle is like this, see? Like
Parallel to
see,
the...
Here's the angle for this one, see? Here was the angle.
Yes.
See? So there's the angle. I say, there's the angle. I say, the angle there is, I use a bevel board. The angle there. And we have 14 degrees. So I write down on the pattern, on the smiling pattern, I write down 14. Because now I know the angle between this, if this were square, see? If I do this square, we can see for ourselves, look, we can see that it has a gap, see? There's a gap in front here. But it's not the gap we want, because we need a 1/4 of an inch of a landing there. See? Are you sorry? Oh, okay, yeah. At noon you could come in here, but I'm waiting for somebody named Sar.
Oh. So we should come back at noon?
Yeah.
It's not open to the public yet?
Well, it's that side, it might be, see, it may be open. But it doesn't, there's two different things. This is small. So here, it really you can.
Oh, okay.
But over there, you can look around.
Thank you.
So, okay, so you see, we have angles and we have boards that record the degrees of these angles. We find out the angle with a sliding bevel. We find out what it is. We write it down at that place on the pattern or on the piece of wood itself.
Okay, so when you cut the plank, you already cut it with an under bevel.
No. The plank is cut square because this has to be. This is like a lot of work. See, so let's go back to the bench.
Okay.
So here's let's take a square to help us understand this. A nice big square, like, where is it? Oh, here it is. Okay, this square will help us out because it's longer. I'm going to use it this way. Okay, so you can see that this guy, it actually has the bevel that we wanted behind it. You see that? So you can see it has a bevel over here. And that bevel we picked up. See? I don't know if you can see it enough.
There's a little bit,
But
yeah.
you can see there's a gap there, huh?
Yes.
So, now mind you, this may or may not be hollow yet. It's irrelevant because, in fact, it's not hollow yet because we first want to do, the reason we want to know this angle first is wouldn't it be a drag if we were then going to cut it away?
Yeah.
And it changes things. So we first want to establish what is the finished width for this plane. And what we have to look at on the inside of the boat, so on the isn't it true that, just imagine for a second, we were just simply talking about something very simple like a circle, and the as we cut, as we use the compass, let's say, and we use the compass, and as it comes out, the relationship to the outside is going to be different on the angle, because as you go further out, it's going to change. Do you follow me? So that, like, you have, that's why you have to know what is the finished width going to be. So what I look at when I go to do this is I'm looking at the inside, am I not? Didn't I use the frame? You see?
So
And do you know, is this yours? You know who this is?
Oh.
Yeah, you can just keep it off with it. Yeah. So the thing is that and this is very interesting, because when we spile, we are sometimes spiling the inside and the outside. Context inside is where we did the lining off.
So when you, okay, so that was going to be my question, but you answered it already. But just to confirm, is when you do the spiling, you measure to the inside of the planking, to the root, right?
Well, the thing about when you line off, a good example, a simple example is like the dory. On that other side, there's lines everywhere. And I'm
No,
not
let's
sure.
take an example here. For example, when you spile this thing, you spile, the compass is you're gonna measure here at the inside?
No,
Or
that's what I'm saying to you. I'm probably not.
not? Okay.
The reason is the lumber that I will have to buy. That's what I'm saying to you. As I go further out on a circle, things are getting wider. See, imagine we cut radially through a set of circles that are changing in size.
Yes.
Then the distance between two of those cuts is getting wider.
Okay.
Agreed?
The outside, yeah.
Therefore, I would be smarter to know the inside distance, but to spile from the outside. So this is something I'm explaining in a general way, because when I'm teaching students, I'm often teaching them methods that are familiar, and then when I'm actually
To make it more concrete, so the outside matches the spiling, right? The outside, these edges.
Yes. So the way the thing is that you see the difference is even that is paradoxical, because what's going on here, as I told you, not paradoxical, but it has difficulties to understand. This part of the bottom of this plank is square.
Yes.
See, when I buy lumber and I'm cutting out on the table saw, I'm usually cutting these planks on the table saw, but it could be the bandsaw, either one. So the bottom is square. See.
Right.
And the piece of wood is square, top and bottom.
Right.
Say. And
So now how do you get to a bevel?
well, the thing, again, the first thing is what I'm trying to transition to first in the conversation is,
Okay.
when did I hollow the plank? I hollowed it after I found out
Right.
how much bevel there is here. Because if I hollowed it prior to that,
Right.
I would be in trouble, because I would have hollowed too far.
Right. Yeah.
That's
I
why
understand
I want to
that.
know what the bevel is, okay?
So bevel first, then
And
hollow.
then, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to be interested in this bevel, and all the questions that came out this morning that started with Larry's questions.
Right.
Yes, then that's why I want the angle. See? So
And
this is still a flat piece, flat piece of wood.
Right.
It's square on both sides.
Right.
And just this one side
Right.
that happens to be encountering the bottom of the last plank. The bottom of the last plank has no bevel planed on it.
Right.
It is just like this one. And that's why I was happy to find this guy, because you can see that this guy, this plus this, gives a perfect fit in the back. Because I'm telling you, people say, well, why don't you just put the next piece and it creates the gaps? And that's like really dumb, because over time when you caulk it, the caulking iron is going to break through there. You see here, caulking iron is not going to break through here.
Because it has plenty of
Because it
material.
has a huge amount of wood.
Yeah.
See, it should be 1/3 of the thickness.
Okay.
This
The lip, yes.
Yeah, this lip. It depends on the thickness. Like if it was a huge, like schooner, then it doesn't have to be 1/3. It could be like 1/5.
Right.
But the point is, in small boats, you'd say 1/3 is about right.
Okay.
So let's say it was 3/4 planking. Then 1/4 would be this piece here,
Right. Right.
right? And
Okay.
then half would be sufficient for the caulking.
Right.
And so now that we understand that, we understand that I talked about the planking, changing the thickness. I talked about the spiling, although I didn't give you this detail, which we're going to talk about next. But we had the spiling, and we cut out the piece already. We
Yes.
cut it out as a shape.
We cut it out. We planed it to different thicknesses.
We planed it only on the outside.
On the
different
outside.
thicknesses, and on the inside it was still pristine, but basically it was planed down to maximum width. So the secret there is that of the secret there is of the here's the secret, okay? So look at this. So I go over to the boat, and I have, this is part of it. See this pattern? Okay? This is a piece of this pattern, okay? There's a piece of this pattern.
Right. Plywood.
It may be a little bit thin. I'm not sure. These are all too thick, so I'll use this one. So come and look at this. When I spile, the pattern, oh, this is in the way, so we'll go here. So when I'm spiling, I have my pattern, like the one you saw over there, right? I have my pattern. But I make sure, before I begin, that this plus this, see, like this plus this, so it is actually the thicker spot. This is too thin, see, for the pattern. So it's going to be, this may be too thick. I'll use 2 of these. Hold on. Just don't make me get back up.
I know. Well, that piece of wood is quite nice to lift yourself up.
So we have a pattern. It's no different than, say, this pattern, okay? This is a little piece of that pattern, just as a sample. The pattern is already nailed up here. It's nailed
Right.
up here. And I come over here, and I say, well, right here, what I want to know, where the last plank is, this plank here is the last plank. I want to know, I want to spile to there. See?
Yes.
Because then I do have the shape of the outside.
Yes. That,
And isn't it true? Because if the boat got like bigger, each time the planks will get wider. You see? But even a little bit matters. So that's why I want to measure from the outside. And also, it's more precise. Imagine dealing with a compass, like you saw how kooky that was, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm showing you because, as I told you, I'm teaching all of the ways. But it is true that I ultimately will say, well, this is the best way. See? I will say that, but not while we're learning the general theory.
right.
As I'm saying, okay, I don't want you to go somewhere and you say, I don't know what they're doing. You see, you want to say, oh, I know what they're doing, and I don't need to tell them anything, but if they ask, I can say, well, there's another way to do it. You see? So if they're interested, they can say, here's another way you could do this, and it would be better because you would have the precise dimension. Okay? So I'm on the outside. Don't videotape that one online. Okay?
No.
Because some things, don't put them online. It won't go well.
So far, you only have an admirer, so don't worry.
The thing is that I mean, it's just inevitable. Like, I mean, anybody can do what they want. It's fine with me. I'm trying to explain to you that traditionally, why do we leave the lip? So many things changed. When I was a teenager, there were very few of the old boat builders, and a lot of people, they had just speeded it up so much, they eliminated parts of this. Some people, instead of hollowing, a lot of people, they started just planing the frames flat. They would measure it, somebody come with a plane, and then they didn't have to do that. They didn't need this anymore. You see, so all of these things, they start throwing off each thing, throwing it away, throwing it away.
Would that make it much weaker then? Because you
Well, it's inferior. If you have big sawn frames, it's okay. But even there, it's, you have to remember the other thing is what they're just missing out on. Like, it is so much fun to make this, to do this. I tell you, we did Frida. You can ask all the people, and I was the director of the project, but I was also the lead carpenter because I was enjoying it so much. Not just because I was showing people, but I was enjoying it so much. So everybody had to make planes, and they had to, it was just so much fun. So this curve I was telling you is the greatest curve on the Frida, on the sterns back at the transom. That's this curve here. But I think you grasp what I'm saying now is that
Yes.
if I go from the outside, then I'm not going to, the outside here is going to remain what it is. It's going to end up looking deeper here only because of this curve and because I haven't done anything with this square.
Right.
Except I've done this, and that makes this look like it's protruding. And it is. So it may be, if there was no limit budget and no limit time, I might go ahead and square this out. You see? Which also has changing curves. But probably not. It's probably not going to be necessary. The only place it would be valuable and necessary is if you were doing the opposite and you're doing a Kingston lobster boat or some boat where the bottom of the boat, now the plank's reversed. Wine glass. Now you can see why even on the bottom one I'm going to be wanting to make some changes. Look.
Right. Because you have to bring it.
The whole logic of Carvel is you can pull planks in and out. So I think you can see very easily this would trap the next plank. So what I'm going to want to do there, in that case, I'm forced to take off some of this, okay? That's very unusual. Meaning it's only part of the boat. It's like a little part of the boat. But on a boat like the boat that Perry's designing, it would be several planks because his boat comes down underneath like that, you see?
Yes.
So you have to bear that in mind. Most of the boat is this way. So you don't have that problem. Right. You do have the problem of filling this in, and that's why I was showing you, I forget what we did, the other hollow, it's right here. So you have this guy, and the whole thing here, as you can see, is this guy is going to take the next one. Here's the next one. See, if I put this guy here, you say, oh, there, look, this guy's on like this. Okay. This was the one that was flat, right? This one flat, like this one like that. And this one is flat on here, and this one is here. Okay.
So how do you decide? I mean, we measured the angle using a sliding bevel. How do you transfer that to the plank that you're? Well,
very easily. You go up to the plank and you say, there's several ways I could do it. One way is I could say, well, I'm gonna translate instead of transfer.
Okay.
So if I translate this. If I say, well, the thickness of the planking, let's say, is this, then I could say, well, the bevel I know, but I'm only going to be taking off this much. Okay, so let's pretend for a moment that I'm dealing with this much. Okay, so then what I can find out is I can say, even on the finished product, I could do this for you. Okay, so we'll accept that I could do it on the finished product. And what I'm going to do is hold this here, because we're just trying to establish the bevel again. See, I'll do it this way. Here's the bevel. Agreed? And then the question I have is, in relationship to this bevel, so now I go back to here, wasn't it 14?
Yeah, 14 degrees.
So we go over here, and we have the square, and we have a pencil here somewhere. Is that one actually? Is that one of those is dead? Oh, here's somebody's that is working. Okay, so go to 14, and I say, well, the first thing is the planking is going to be whatever it is, but remember I told you it's, in this case we agreed it was a quarter of an inch, right?
Yes, the
Because
lip.
3/4,
Right.
so we're saving a quarter that we're talking about right now, agreed?
Yes.
So then I say, okay, quarter looks like this, and now I'm going to go to 14, and here's 14, okay, right here. Here's a quarter, okay? Take a square, and I say, well, here's did I get that right, quarter? Yeah, and here's a quarter of an inch there, and here's 14. I come up to here, and I see that it is that much material. So I could actually, there's a number of ways I can do it. One way I could use I have some small gauges like this, sliding bevel. They're little ones. I think I have one over there. And I could just go along, and I could first have the plank in, I could have it clamped, and I go to that particular spot, and I say, okay, at this particular spot, here's the bevel. I hold it against the plank. The plank cannot have been hollowed yet, agreed?
Yes.
Therefore, it is against a flat surface.
Right.
So I go up to there, and I take a Swedish knife, and I cut, I draw the quarter of an inch all along the edge of the plank.
Right.
Usually using a gauge.
Right.
If
Yes.
I use my fingers, it would be smarter to use a gauge.
Right.
Then I simply take a knife, and I cut the angle there, changing angle here, changing angle here.
Oh, you just cut
Now I
a
plane
groove
all
with a
the way.
knife?
I'm sorry?
You just cut a groove with a knife?
Yeah,
to match the angle?
I'm just cutting into the frame from the outside, a V. I'm cutting a V.
Okay, I see.
And the V ends at 0 the piece, but it comes down to the depth I want on the outside. So you can either do it, very often it's faster for
It's
me
in
to
the
use.
inside, right? So you're gonna cut on towards the inside, or no?
Yeah, you're working, but it's the from where you're working, it's the outside of the piece. You see,
Okay.
yes, it's the inside of the plank, but you're working
Right.
from the outside of the piece.
I see.
And
Okay.
it's turned towards you, and then so sometimes I do it. Either I measure it, and then I think you've seen me. I'll just join. Changing angles, you see. So this guy, say, okay, here is this much, and then I just know it's getting bigger.
Yeah.
It's getting bigger. It's getting bigger. And how do we do this? We do this because we practice a lot. Look, see. So
You blend
you're
it.
using your own fingers as the sliding bevel. Okay, and then when you plane it, whatever error there is, this doesn't have very much error. See, the line I just drew. Because you practice a lot. But don't worry, the plane is going to even out any irregularities. So in other words, what I'm saying to you, in this instance, on the plank, I put a dot or a mark. It's this deep, this deep, this deep. This is how I mostly do it. I don't want you to do it first because you have to first learn how to do what I just was showing you. So first you're better off using the knife and just cutting the bevel exactly at each place. But I'm doing it very fast because I have to get a whole plank on in a day. Or I'm not going to make the grade.
Right.
Believe me, in the past, you can ask, maybe if you ask the people you saw up north, there are guys there, they're working really fast. It's a little bit rough sometimes. I don't mean at the school. The school is a separate thing where people are learning. I'm talking about the professionals that are there. I'm not in the class number one of these people. Those people are working really hard, and they're they're not required necessarily, depends. If it's a yacht, it's gotta be perfect. But a lot of people are just doing repairs and so on. They gotta, for the yard to succeed, they have to produce. And it's expected. So a minimum is expected about like this, you'll get one whole plank on in a day. I'm telling you, you gotta really move. You gotta really focus. That's why I'm always saying, here, it's a school, but I'm saying focus, stay with it, because if you knew what it takes, like you would say, oh, I got it, the whole thing is I gotta stay focused. I gotta just keep going. See? So, but that's how we do it. So then you're gonna speed up. So you'd rather have just the line. There's the line, plane it away, next step, follow the plank, next step, follow the outside, around the outside.
Right.
And because remember I showed you the lead you can use it from either side. If you don't want to use the lead, you've got to make wood patterns, a whole bunch of them, and then that's going to take time, and you're going to have to make them for both sides.
Right.
So what I have a whole, if you look, I have jars of lead sheet over there.
Yes.
And as I say, just don't forget that you have lead on your hands. More precisely, you have lead oxide on your hands, which is worse than having lead on your hands.
Have the dog lick them.
Oh,
So
yeah,
you
if you
should
didn't
wash
like
your-
that dog.
What's the best way to cut lead?
With just a knife, cut
Like
it.
a straight edge?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
the big box cut, the big.
Yeah, like a straight edge, yes, for sure. And be very careful because it's soft. Because I have some here. You can try it. So it has to be rolled lead, which is not hardened. See, lead can be hardened by hammering it, and also what's put in the lead, like if it has any hardening metal like antimony. But if you buy sheet lead, you're going to always be able to cut it. And we have some here if you ever want to do that. And that's also what you use to patch your hull, by the way. See, like people, if they're using, like even underwater, there's a problem. And lead is soft, you see, so you can go underwater and you can put Irish felt behind it or something behind it, and you can push it up against the hull and you can actually fasten it, see? Usually out of the water, but some people have to do it in the water. But you don't have to. Some people say no, absolutely don't want to touch lead. Say fine. You make patterns out of wood, out of plywood. And you just get a really fine blade on the saw, bandsaw, that you can cut it, easily and have these patterns. And then that way you don't have the toxicity issue. See. So. All right, let's see, how are we doing time-wise here? It must be almost,
11, 12.
yeah, I was thinking it must be almost 11, so I gotta make sure that door is kept open, because sorry.